Hey there and welcome back to our kitchen. I'm Jenny, one of Festival's Mealtime Mentors, and today we are using our bakery's chunky cinnamon bread to make a decadent apple cinnamon bread pudding. So this is a dish that I think your whole family will love. So the star of this dish is that chunky cinnamon bread, and what we're doing is cutting it up into 1-inch chunks. And I have some already cut up in this bowl right here, but I'm going to go ahead and finish cutting that. So typically, you would cut this bread up and then let it sit on like a baking sheet in a single layer for a couple hours or even overnight, because you want that bread to be nice and dried out so that it soaks up all of that liquid that we're going to be putting in it later. But we don't have the time, so I'm just tossing it into our large mixing bowl right now. I love this recipe because it's a great way to use up, day-old bread. I really suggest that you use chunky cinnamon bread though. If you don't have the chunky cinnamon bread, it will taste good with other types of bread that you might have on hand, but I think it tastes the best with chunky cinnamon bread. So if you do sub something else out, maybe add a little extra cinnamon to your liquid mixture. I'm going to go ahead and get all of our cubed bread into this large bowl. And next, we are going to mix in some raisins. Just using normal raisins today, but you could use golden raisins as well. And some diced apple. Today I have a pizzazz apple, which I've actually never tried before, but it looked really good, so I grabbed that at the store. I've also made this with Honeycrisp apples and Granny Smith apples, and it's really good with just whatever your favorite type of apple is. Giving this a good mix to get everything nice and combined. There we go. And now we're going to move on to our liquid mixture. So we have some low-fat milk. I'm going to get this into our bowl. And then unsweetened applesauce. So we are using unsweetened applesauce, but we're adding in a little bit of sugar to this as well. Here's that sugar. Couple eggs. A nice amount of cinnamon. And some fresh lemon zest. So I think this lemon zest adds just a little bit of extra brightness to this dish, which is, pretty rich with all of the bread in here. So it's a nice touch. All right. And now I'm going to give this a good mix together. And I want to make sure I get all of the eggs really well mixed in here, because if you don't, you will end up with like chunks of scrambled eggs in your bread pudding, which nobody wants. And I know this because when we first tested it, I didn't mix it well enough and ended up with some not so great chunks of eggs. So learn from my mistakes. And I know this looks like a lot of liquid, but your bread will soak all of it right up. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead and pour all of this over my bread. And mix it together. I want to make sure that all of the bread is nice and coated and has a chance to soak up that delicious liquid we just mixed together. And after mixing, you would let this sit for about 15 minutes so all of that liquid has a chance to absorb into the bread. And you can also just mix all of this overnight or the night before and let it sit overnight before you bake it. Oops, and that will turn out just fine as well. Okay. So I think all of this liquid is nice and mixed in. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my baking dish. I'm using a large baking dish today. I've greased it lightly with some cooking spray. Now I'm just going to get all of this in here and then spread it out. And the last thing we're going to do is drop some cubes of butter on top. This will just help everything brown nicely. All right, so now I'm going to pop this into the oven. It's preheated to 325 and it bakes for about 45 minutes or until all that liquid is absorbed and the top is kind of like golden brown and crunchy. But I do have one that's already prepared. Oops. And there you have it. It is so simple. At this point, I would definitely suggest you serve it warm with a little bit of caramel sauce or brandy sauce or even ice cream. So it's perfect for brunch or for dessert. So I hope you dive into this delicious apple cinnamon bread pudding recipe. And for more recipes and resources from your mealtime mentors, visit festfoods.com.